Welcome back to the channel. We're back on our Final Fantasy Commander deck profile. Today with the Destined White Mage. She's a 2/3 with lifelink, where you pay 1 white and tap her to get another creature with lifelink, and whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. If you have the full party, you get 3 counters instead, but we're not really caring about that ability at all with this deck. We want to make sure we're gaining life 1 at a time, so that we could get those counters onto our creatures as many as possible. It doesn't care about how much life you gain, it just cares if you gained how many different times you gain life. We basically have a second copy of Hiliad Suncrown with this deck, because she has a very similar ability to this creature, very similar casting cost, just not indestructible. She's lifelink herself instead. Um, we have other ways to give our creatures lifelink as well. We have the classic infinite combo in this deck while we're at it, because why not? It's almost like it's made for it. But that's just a general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have an Aether Flux Reservoir. Anytime we cast a spell, we get a life for the first one, 2 for the second one, 3 for the third one, so on and so forth. Then, eventually you pay 50 life to take one person out of the game. Yeah, tends to be really helpful. It's an instance of life gain for each time you cast a spell, essentially, which is 3 counters if you cast 3 spells, which I take that deal. At the Soul Cauldron, we have a really good ability there with the Destined White Mage, so why have only 1 copy of her ability when we can have any creature have her ability? Especially that, it's really just the one where she gets the not where she gives lifelink to a creature, but still, this also benefits all of her creatures because they're going to tend to all have the +1/+1 counters, thanks to her secondary ability. Arcane Signet for a little bit of mana there. Excalibur II, whenever you gain life, put a charge counter on Excalibur. Equip creatures +1/+1 for each charge counter on Excalibur. It's basically another card that stores our +1/+1 counters. This way we could put it onto a creature and deal some big damage. Lightning Greaves for some protection there for our creatures. Also, only thing is with the Shroud is that you can't then target it for the activated ability, because you can't target your own stuff to have Shroud. But just be careful about where you put the boots then. And also allows you to activate her ability a little bit sooner as well. Lotus Petal for a little bit of ramp, at least temporarily. Mind Stone for some ramp. Pearl Medallion for some cost reduction. Pristine Talisman for some ramp plus some life gain. That's an instant gaining life. That's a +1/+1 counter. Soul Ring for some extra mana. Staff of the Sun Mages. Whenever you cast a white spell or a planes enters the battlefield under your control, get a life. That's a counter just by playing our spells. Swiftfoot Boots, a little bit more haste so she can activate her ability turn she comes down, plus that hexproof so that she can't be targeted by your opponent's Chaos Dwarfs, Beast Withins, all that type of stuff. Ozolith, in order to make sure that when our creatures do get removed, if they had all those counters on them, we may as well save them up for another big turn. Wind Crystal, another way to give all our creatures lifelink, is 6 mana for that secondary ability, so you're not going to tend to use it too much. But also, whenever you gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. Just helping us out with our life gain abilities there. Drone of Eldraine, a little bit of ramp there, potentially some draw power too. Wayfarer's Bauble for some ramp. And Well of Lost Dreams. We could pay 1 or 0 depending on how much life we gain, because we're going to be gaining life 1 at a time, and yeah, just saving up that mana for some bigger moves later on could be helpful, especially if we don't had to do that compared to gaining 4 life and spending 3 mana. It's just like, oh no, now I drew what I want to do. For our creatures, well, Giant's not a creature, he's a planeswalker. It's just easier to group him with the creatures. You gain life equals the number of creatures you control. That's an instance of a big life gain, so it's not really the ability we're going for. We could go for the getting the 2/2 white cat creature token that gets stronger anytime you gain life. That's counters on himself his own way, and that's counters on with the Destined White Mage's ability, so that could be a really strong creature for us. Or, we could just exile everything one of our opponent's controls if we have 15 more life than our starting life total. I'm just saying, like, we have choices. I think we might go for the last one, though. Archivist of Agma, whenever opponent searches the library, you gain a life, draw a card. Really good for certain decks versus others, especially if your opponent's playing green. Daxus, Blessed by Sun. Whenever another creature you control enters or dies, you get to gain a life. That's an instant life gain. Or have a creature enter, gain a life, just by Destined White Mage entering. Dust Legion Duelist, whenever one or more +1/+1 counters opponent's creature, draw a card. Only do it once each turn, so why put more than one? We'll just gain a life during each of our opponent's turns and draw 4 every time we go around the table. As for Sentinel, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell each turn, draw a card. Unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power, buff up Esper Sentinel a lot. This way, they could be like, "Oh, I'll just pay the 1 for it." This is now you'll have to pay 5. Exemplar of Light. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Whenever you put one or more +1/+1 counters on this creature, gets to draw a card. Potentially really helpful for having 4 cards every time we go around the table, if we manage to gain a life during each of our opponent's turns. Halia, Guided by Light. Way to gain life anytime a creature enters. Also warp, so that if you just need to gain 1 life, you just warp her in for that 1 mana, and you get to gain life because it's whenever she enters or one of your other creatures enter. Heliod, Suncrown. Essentially the same ability that our commander is giving us, giving any creature lifelink, and giving +1/+1 counters anytime we gain life to our creatures. Or enchantments, I guess. Lunarch Veteran. Whenever another creature you control enters, you get to gain a life. We'll like to see it. May as well gain a whole bunch of life, one at a time. And then Luminous Phantom. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you get to gain a life. Don't really care about that one too much. We're going to go for the front side. Ranger of Eos. Whenever Ranger of Eos enters the battlefield, search library for up to 2 creature cards with CMC 1 or less. Put them into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Maybe we search out Walking Ballista. Maybe we just search out Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, Sarah Ascendant. We have a lot of 1 or less good creature spells with this die. Maybe even Esper Sentinel, depending on what we need at the time. Ranger, Captain of Eos. Another good way to search out our 1 mana creature spells. This way we could get our combos going. Recruiter of the Guard, same thing. Toughness 2 or less. That's all of our Soul Sisters. Selfless Spirit. This is a good cleric, giving all of our creatures indestructible. So the last thing we want is our opponent to board wipe us. Sarah Ascendant. It could potentially be gaining 1 life at a time if she just swings in normally with that lifelink, or if you manage to get her out early enough and you have a high enough life total, that's 6 life you're gaining, which is nothing to sneeze at. It's also just a good 1 mana creature to get with all that search power we have. Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant both have the same ability of gaining life anytime a creature enters the battlefield. That's us or our opponents. It's a good way to gain life during any player's turn to get that 4 cards anytime we go around the table. Sun Titan. A good way to recur our Soul's Attendant, Sarah Ascendant. Get them back from the graveyard. Potentially our Walking Ballista as well, because that is technically 0, but it just goes right back to the graveyard. Because it's a 0/0. Unless, you have something to do. Gaffer, anytime you gain Dreamer life at the end of the turn, you get to draw a card. Which, if our opponent had 3 creatures entered during their turn, well, we have a Soul's Attendant. That's a draw power during their turn as well. Suture Priest, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to gain life. Your opponent loses life if they do the same. Which, it's holding its balance as it should be. We're winning, our opponent's losing. Triskelion enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters. Move a +1/+1 counter, deal 1 damage to any target. Which, if you give it lifelink, deal the damage, gain a life, put a new +1/+1 counter. There you go. You're going infinite. Voice of the Blessed. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Potentially 2 if you're getting the Destined White Mage on the board as well. And then one says 4, it gets Vigilance and Flying. And one says 10, it gets Indestructible as well. Could be a really strong creature there for us. And Walking Ballista. Basically the same thing as Triskelion, just enters as a 0/0. Still super helpful in terms of what we're trying to do. So our opponent has Fire, Lightning Magic. One of the 2. Then on to the second half of our deck. Johnny's Welcome, allowing us to gain some life anytime a creature enters the battlefield under our control, which we like to see it. This way, all we need is Walking Ballista to enter while we have the Destined White Mage on the board. Angelic Accord, and at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 4 more life this turn, which not hard to do as you've seen, get a 4/4 Angel. That's another instant life gain, so it could potentially be a 5/5 Angel. Authority of Consuls, whenever a creature an opponent controls enters, you get to gain a life, and their creatures enter tapped. That's a benefit there for our, where did it go? Dust Legion Duelists, while we have the Destined White Mage on the board. Cleric class, if you gain life, gain that much life +1 instead. And whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. benefiting our Triskelion and Walking Ballista, depending on where we're at in the game. Land tax for some extra ramp. Monologue tax so that we can get plenty of treasures. Also, I've been trying to run less game changers, so if you want to run Smothering Tide over Monologue tax, it's definitely something you can do instead. Test of Endurance, enemy for upkeep. If you have 50 or more life, you win the game. We like winning the game. Not often you have 50 or more life, but like you could. The cage is welcome. Whenever one more creatures you control at mana value 3 or less enter, you get to draw a card, which, as I said, we have a bunch of strong 1 and 2 drops. Trouble in pairs. Yeah, your opponents can't take extra turns, basically. And then whenever you're attacked by a bunch of things, you get to draw some cards. Wait, no. Whenever an opponent attacks you, 2 more creatures, draws their second spell each turn, or casts their second spell. Yeah. And then True Conviction. We give our creatures lifelink without having to tap the Destined White Mage, because we won't always have the mana to do it. Dawn's Truce for some protection. Everybody lives for some protection, because we want to make sure that our creatures are sticking around, rather than our opponent just playing Chaos Warp and like, never mind. There goes my combo. Flare of Fortitude, Flawless Maneuver, Restoration Magic, and Unbreakable Formation are all of our protection spells. For removal, we have Generous Gift, Path to Exile, and Swords to Plowshares. Abandoned Air Temple, another way to give our creatures some counters. Venture's End allows us to gain some life. A Maria the Sky Rune. You get a creature back from our graveyard, potentially the Triskelion. Hall of Heliod's Generosity, in order to get our enchantments back, potentially our True Conviction, Monologue tax, Land tax, depends what we need. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, we have quite the high dedication with this deck. No, devotion. I don't know why I say dedication. So that could be a lot of mana. Plains, because we're mana white. Radiant Fountain for some ramp and some life gain. War Room for some draw power. And for our sorceries, Austere Command for a board wipe, Farewell, Mass Calcify, and Ravnica War. All for board wipes, some of which Ravnica War and Austere Command can be one-sided. Farewell tends to be two-sided, and Mass Calcify is also tends to be one-sided. But overall, pretty really good deck. Yep, I'd say this is a really good commander. I think she's going to be pretty strong, and I think I won't be liking seeing her across the table. But overall, if you guys liked the video, make sure you like the video. If you want to see more like this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can stay tuned to watch more like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.